If there was one misconception about brain health you wish you could permanently retire, what would it be and what should replace it?
Yeah. So, misconception, I would say that your brain can't heal, that it doesn't drive everything, or we have to start with the gut first. So, I feel like your brain is primary, everything stems out of it. And so, really feel that we need to address the neurology in our body first. Welcome to Take Back My Brain with Laurie Hammer, where real healing starts in the brain. I'm Laurie, a functional nutritionist and mom who's walked the path from anxiety and burnout to clarity and calm. Each week, we're going to dive into brain-based tools like amino acid therapy, gut health, fasting, and faith to help you reclaim your energy, emotions, and sense of self. Hey, what if your anxiety isn't a mental health problem, but a missing nutrient? Today, I'm sharing a powerful conversation I had with Dr. Rob Silverman on the proven health alternatives. We break down what's really driving anxiety, brain fog, and overwhelm, and why so many people stay stuck. Because the truth is, you can't medicate away a nutrient deficiency. So let's get into the podcast. Dr. Rob, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I'm happy you're here. So, you're known as the brain first person. Tell me a little bit about that.
I believe that if we calm the brain first, then everything below the neck gets easier to deal with. So, hard to heal digestion if you're stuck in fight or flight, if you have anxious thoughts, ruminating thoughts, all those kind of things. So, if we can calm all that down, then everything else below the neck gets better.
So, there's a gut to brain axis, and you're talking about the downward spiral. We're talking about the brain to gut axis.
Brain to gut access. Yes.
Outstanding. So, what's the why behind taking back the brain?
My why? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, give me a why.
Yeah. Well, my why is because I struggled with anxiety, depression, eating disorder for over a decade when I was younger. And calming the brain saved my life. So amino acid therapy literally saved my life. So without that, I don't know that I would be here. So that's what makes me really passionate. And then I get to see thousands of clients over the years, the same thing happened to them. And it just fires me up all the time.
That's great. No, that really caught my eye when you talked about amino acids. And I mean, you talk about a bevy of amino acids. I usually look at taurine as the amino acid.
Hmm.
Taurine does decrease excitotoxicity, it closes down
Yes.
the synaptic cleft, and all that follows with that. So, why don't you go in a little bit of detail? Tell us about the amino acids that you like. Amino acids are building blocks of protein, and what do you like them for, and how you came about that?
Yeah. So when I'm talking about amino acids, I mainly work with like emotional pieces. So we're talking about what neurotransmitters dictates, how we're feeling, how we're functioning, those kind of things. And so I'm looking at serotonin, GABA, your endorphins, your catecholamines, and then really that all bounces on glucose regulation. So figuring out which amino acids you're deficient in those five different areas. So if we're talking about serotonin,
Mm,
could be 5-HTP, could be tryptophan. I like to lean towards tryptophan because that converts into so many different things, right? Where 5-HTP only converts into serotonin, but sometimes people don't respond to tryptophan. So we need that 5-HTP. When we're talking about your endorphins, I'm going for D-phenylalanine because it just really calms that nervous system, makes you just feel like you're super joyful inside. So your endorphins are like your inner joy, and so DPA really helps with that. When we're
right.
going with the catecholamines, it could be LPA, L-phenylalanine, D-L-phenylalanine, could be tyrosine, which is a lot of my go-to for supporting that catecholamine process. So that helps you to focus, your ADD, ADHD, kind of that apathetic depression. Maybe you're craving things for focus, for energy. So it's helpful for your thyroid, all those kind of things. GABA, I love taurine. The GABA pathway, taurine's amazing for that. GABA itself, L-theanine. There's lots of different things we could use there. And then glutamine's amazing for that glucose regulation. So those are my basics. When I'm working with people, we kind of start with 9 different amino acids, try them, and then see which one your body responds to.
So, when you talk about the 9 amino acids, you're talking about the essential aminos?
Yeah, well, there's 8 essential amino acids. I like to throw in lithium orotate in there because it's super brain protective. So when I'm sending out my sample kits to all my clients, that we're going to trial them because I do sublingual testing. So you get a kit in the mail from me. Lithium orotate's always included in there too.
Great ad, great ad. Now, glutamine, the most abundant amino acid in the body, great for mucosal lining healing,
Yes,
wonderful for muscle development. Leucine, the signaler of health, the gold medal winner. I believe that leucine, because it stimulates the mTOR pathway and protein synthesis, is a longevity amino acid.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
those
I
are
love leucine. Valine, isoleucine, all of those. Those are amazing. The only challenge I have with some of those sometimes because I have so many people that come to me like on branch chain amino acids, right? But they're still anxious, they're still depressed. So I actually have them stop that for just a little bit because they compete at the same receptor sites like of L-tryptophan, so it can drive that L-tryptophan down. And so if we've got anxiety, depression, OCD, I really want to build that pathway first, and then we can add those back in.
so those are the branch chain amino acids you mentioned before: leucine, isoleucine, and valine.
Valine. Yep.
Excellent. Those, to me, they under the branch of essential amino acids are your core aminos.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, you are unique in that I don't hear a lot of people talk about amino acids. I hear them talk about neurotransmitters.
Mhm.
So that's fabulous. So let's segue that into brain health is not just about the brain.
No, I mean, we were just talking about the gut to brain axis. We have to
Right.
heal the gut in order for the brain to function well. There's so much communication. There's probably more communication going upwards than there is downwards, but I still feel if we call that support the brain with the amino acids, that helps the gut as well. So I talk about brain first therapy, but let's honestly, there's so much tryptophan, there's so much serotonin going on in the gut, So when you're taking these specific amino acids for those specific neurotransmitters, it's working in both aspects.
Yeah, I wrote a couple of things down when I was thinking of you last night, and coming on the podcast. Number one, we don't lose cognition overnight. We lose signaling integrity first.
That is true.
Number two, brain health is no longer a neurological issue. It's a systems biology issue. That's why it's gut to brain, brain to gut, the
Yep.
superhighway to health. So, what kind of tests do you recommend to enable you to know which amino acids to prescribe?
So the amino acid testing I do is super simple. I send you the kit of amino acids in the mail,
Mhm.
and then we actually open up the capsules, put them underneath our tongue, stare at each other awkwardly for like 2 minutes, and see what your body and your brain does with the amino acid. You'll notice a difference. Something will shift, whether it's you feel calmer or weight is lifted off your chest. Maybe your shoulders feel better. Maybe your stomach doesn't have the knot in it anymore. The green is greener, the blue is bluer. That happens that fast with amino acids. And so I don't rely on blood or urine testing for any of that. I go off a symptom based questionnaire in those 5 categories that we talked about. And I just keep it super simple because then people are like, oh my gosh, I actually feel a difference with this supplement. Right. And then they know that that's going to help them in the long run. So it also helps with the psychology of it all, the emotional component of it all. People are so used to taking supplements, they're like, I don't know if it's helping or not. But when you do the sublingual testing with the amino acids and
Mm.
your anxiety goes down right away, then you know that that's going to help you.
Another thing that I really like about the fact that you incorporate amino acids is we look at muscle recovery and muscle mass. Muscle mass, the longevity organ, Gabriella line,
Yeah,
etc. And most people don't look at the aminos like that. They look at them as an adjunct. And, we look at protein, but protein's not going to function well without proper amino acid profiles and ratios.
exactly. It's foundational to every single thing in your body, whether it's your hair, skin, or nails, muscles, to your hormones, to your enzymes, it's everything.
Let's talk a little bit about something called neuroplasticity or brain neurogenesis. So,
Hmm.
those amino acids are having a positive effect on the brain. So, they're enabling you to rewire your brain neurons so you can refire them. So, that's the
Correct.
idea of neuroplasticity. So, take me through which amino acids you like to utilize for that.
I'm just gonna stick with those 5 categories, to be honest, and then, tryptophan is huge for that. So, when you get that brain calmed down, you don't have those OCD thoughts anymore, and because that's gonna convert into so many different things, eventually it's gonna convert into NAD, and everybody's talking about NAD, right?
Right.
So, it's huge for brain health. Sometimes we'll use, like, a full spectrum amino acid, not just the essentials, but the full spectrum. So, I like the Total Amino Solutions by Janessa. And I like to use that because people are deficient in all of the amino acids, not just those essential 8. And so, like you were saying, if you don't have that beautiful profile, it's hard for your body, hard for your brain to regenerate and for that neuroplasticity piece. So I think all of them are essential. I really don't think that there's just 8.
Neurodegenerative disease is on the rise, without
Yes.
question. Alzheimer's through the roof, Parkinson's coming up close. We've got ALS. We've
Yeah.
got a lot of autoimmune conditions that'll be perceived as neurodegenerative disease. How are you finding your prescription of amino acids, those 9 essential amino acids, help to attenuate a lot of the symptomology of neurodegenerative diseases?
Man, Dr. Rob, I see it helping so many people all the time. You know, it's always part of my protocol. So there's never not a time that I don't use the amino acids. So whether you have MS, you have ALS, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, we're always using the amino acids. That's my first line of defense, I like to say. Because when you nourish the nervous system, because that's what we're doing with amino acids, then things can heal. If you don't nourish the foundation when we're created in the womb, what is it? Our spinal cord, everything comes out of that. So
Big.
if we don't go back to the nervous system and we don't feed it, which is really what you're doing with amino acids because it's food for the body, you don't feed it, you can't regenerate. You can't detox without the proper
Mhm.
amino acid protocol. So there's just so many components there.
Anxiety, top of everybody's list right now, unfortunately. Why do so many people suffer from anxiety when they're doing all the right things?
I think it's multifactorial. One, you're probably deficient in amino acids. That's what I see all the time. So
Mhm.
your food, even though you're eating good food, food is still deficient. So I feel like we need to take that supplemental amino acids. We get caught up in society. We were just talking a little bit about politics before that. We're listening to the wrong things. We
Right.
focus our brain, we focus our emotions on things that we don't really have control over. And so that makes us anxious. And then when our emotional system is anxious, then our physical system suffers, right? So it's always mental, emotional, physical. I think we just forget who we are, who God created us to be, and that
Mhm.
makes us anxious.
When you talk about amino acid supplementation, and many people talk about supplementation, how does this amino acid supplementation differ from the supplementation you may just get in a health food store?
Hey, friend, just a quick break to remind you if calming your brain is the missing piece in your practice or in your home, my Mind Thrive certification course teaches you exactly how to do that with targeted amino acid therapy. So it's real science, real results, no band aids. Enrollment is now open. Link is in the show notes. So back to the show. So this is targeted. This is therapeutic doses, very targeted towards what's going on in your body and in your brain. Could go take a random amino acid supplement and it's not going to give you the results that the targeted therapeutic doses will give you.
Great. So here's one for you. You're going to love this since you and I both believe in not just root cause resolution, root causes resolution. Why don't medications fix the causes of anxiety and depression for so many people?
Well, because it's not nourishing the brain. So it's just masking the symptoms and it's shutting down your body's own mechanisms. So if we're going to we'll just use serotonin as an example because SSRIs are an epidemic and I hate them. So SSRIs will stop your body's recycling process. So tryptophan, like we talked before, recycles into lots of different things. Your body uses it as it needs it. And so an SSRI stops that whole process, right? And it falsely inflates serotonin in between the two synapses. And that's why over time it just doesn't work anymore because it's not creating new serotonin. It's not creating or giving your body the nutrients to create it itself, right? And so when we're using the amino acids, we're saying, hey, wake up, serotonin, because here's some nutrition for you. Start making your own stuff again, and it will, right? And then it recycles it, and then it has such a profound effect, not just on your mood, but it affects your muscles, it affects your heart, it affects, how your digestion works. Where medication just kind of hinders all of that. It's basically a long-term antibiotic in your gut. It kills your microbiome.
Mm.
So there's lots of factors there.
Yeah, the drugs are pointed at diminishing the symptoms, which have their place, but not really pointed at root cause in many instances. You mentioned serotonin. Serotonin, 93% of serotonin comes from the gut. So
Yeah.
we've got that gut to brain to gut axis. Whatever you do to your gut, you do to your brain. Whatever you do to your brain, you do to your gut.
Yep.
Vagus nerve is that critical nerve that communicates the brain and the gut. You talk a lot about calming the brain first. What does
Mhm.
that really mean in practice?
Well, it's just nourishing your whole system. Because when you have enough protein, you have enough amino acids, you have enough fats, that's gonna calm that whole neurology. And so we're top-down creatures, right? We eat here first, we think here first, we're top down. So when we calm this down, then everything else gets better.
So let's look at anxiety. I'm afraid of heights. So it's fine if I don't know it, but once I see it, I am a different person. I am shaking. I want to sit on the ground. I don't want to walk up a hill. And, my wife will say it's a small hill, but to me, it's Mount Everest.
Right.
So, how quick can I turn that around with supplementation?
Really, really fast, to be honest. I am
Great.
I'll tell you my fear. Afraid of driving on a bridge, and so when I know I'm gonna be driving on a long bridge, I'll take some extra tryptophan, to be honest with you, or if there's just water on both sides of the road, and I used to be, like, sweaty, and I'd have to drive down the middle of the road, but when I have enough tryptophan, my serotonin is good. There might still be that thought process there because it is a fear, but I'm not gonna have that physical response anymore, and then I can logically tell myself, "You're fine. This is a small hill. This is not a big bridge. It's not going to collapse." You know what I mean? So, when your neurology is nourished, when you have enough amino acids, your thought process becomes more logical.
So essentially, because I'm not taking those amino acids, I admit it, and I'm afraid of bridges myself. I hate to tell you that. I mean, you can drive over a bridge and I'll go with you. But if I have to drive over a bridge, I'll stop just as I come to the bridge and say, back it up. Let's go get a bicycle and go across the walkway. That must be causing some stress and trauma and inflaming my
Yeah,
brain. How
definitely.
can we address that other than taking the tryptophan?
Um, you could take a full spectrum amino acid. I really feel like there's a deficiency issue going on there with you, Dr. Rob. So I would
Oh,
make sure.
you're not the only one who thinks there's a deficiency with me.
So I would just encourage you to take that. I mean, you can try to talk yourself out of it, but we don't have to white knuckle through everything. Sometimes it's just a deficiency. And then when we fix the deficiency, support that deficiency, then we can let go. So we're not white knuckling. And then we can, tell ourselves like, this is okay. We can drive across the bridge. We can walk across the bridge. The bridge is stable, all those kind of things.
What are the most common deficiencies you see in high functioning women? Because women are making the move. The gender of 2026, if I can say that, is without question the females growing in
Yes.
all businesses. We're watching female basketball more. They're great to watch. I'm a
Yes.
basketball guy.
Hmm.
So let's address that because everything's always been based on dosage on men, not females.
See women very deficient in serotonin. So that's why they're stuck on SSRIs and they're stuck on ADHD medications. So their catecholamines are low. So those would be the two biggest areas I would say. But, most people are going to be low in the GABA area as well. And so it's kind of it. I don't know. You have to assess all five different areas. But I would say anxiety is on the rise in women because there's kind of we're shining more now because people are
Right.
noticing and, those kind of things, but there's also that extra pressure, and so we're not taking care of ourselves as well as we could. We're not resting as much. All women who come to me are undernourished. Nobody's eating enough protein or enough healthy fats, skipping so many meals. I love fasting, but not on a daily basis, so there's lots of disruption that's going on there. So I think as women are rising, we also need to talk more about how do we nourish ourselves better, and amino acids is part of that conversation.
It's funny you mentioned and you just segued into intermittent fasting. There's
Mhm.
an article that just came out that said it may not be as effective as we thought. Having lectured on intermittent fasting, women have to intermittent fast differently than men.
Absolutely.
So I'm a push button because I'm a male, 12 and
Mhm.
12, 14 and 10, 16 and 8. It doesn't really matter. But women, especially of the age of menstruation, poses an issue because when progesterone goes up, that's a common effect in the last 2 weeks of that traditional cycle. However, stress and intermittent fasting is a little bit of a stress,
Mhm.
decreases progesterone. You're putting women into a tailspin. So you're really highlighting probably a conversation that we should talk about and have a whole intermittent fasting
Oh,
platform.
yeah.
Women have to intermittent fast different than men. So here's my suggestion. I suggest that if women start the first week of their cycle, the first 2 weeks of their cycle, 16 and 8. So 16 hours of a fast, 8 hours of feeding, perfect. Week 3, take it down to 14 and 10. And week 4, when progesterone really spikes and you don't wanna knock it down and go into PMS, which is a real thing.
Mhm.
Men, it's a real thing, it's not a made up term. Get them down to 12 and 12. If you cycle them like that, intermittent fasting will be much more effective. Men, you can stay at 14 and 10 and 16 and 8, like I said. So, I got a call today, and I put somebody on a new protocol, and they said, "Why do I feel worse on a new protocol than better initially? Help me, Laurie, please."
Oh, well, maybe your body's detoxing. Your body's trying to heal. It's kinda like when you break your leg, you don't f when once they set it, it doesn't feel better, it still hurts. And you're gonna go through ups and downs as that leg is healing. It's the same thing with a nutritional protocol, whatever whatever health protocol you might be on, there's gonna be ups and down as your body heals. That's just nature.
Let's talk a little bit about some non-pharmaceutical pathways to brain optimization, something that I've seen you talk about in a lot of different podcasts. Because you are, without question, you're a hot topic on podcasts. You're all over the place. Nobody talks about amino acids for the brain. When I'm talking with my guys
Mhm.
and my gals and my team, and I say amino acids for brain, they look at me and go, "We haven't heard that." I said, "Well, you haven't heard it because I haven't said it because we're in our little,
In a little bubble.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Bubble. Help me out, Lori."
I mean, we're talking amino acids, right? So we can continue
Sure.
talking about that. But just even going outside and grounding yourself, like putting your toes on the ground. So, to shift the ions in your body. That helps with your brain health. Walking out in the sunshine. I teach all my clients to get out in that early morning sunlight, go for a walk. That boosts your serotonin, boosts your dopamine, boosts your endorphins. You need the sunshine in your eyeballs. Go out midday. Go out again at sunset so that your body gets in rhythm with nature. And so we can take all the amino acids we want, but if you're not doing the practical things too, whether it's eating enough protein, getting out in the sunshine, grounding, swimming in water that's not chlorinated, all those kind of things. We still have to change the lifestyle that we're living too in order for our brain health to change too. Changing how you think, so many of us live in fear and we've got these negative thoughts going on. Well, God didn't create our brain to live that way. He gave us a beautiful brain. We should live in power, love, and a sound mind, right? So it's changing our thought patterns. It's changing the way that we speak. Life and death is in the power of the tongue. So there's lots of components there outside of just those basic nutritional supplements that we talk about.
I agree with you. I think it's lifestyle, and we don't talk about brain health enough. We take it for granted. We think that it's just an organ that's going to function for the 70 to 100 years that we live. So, where's brain health headed in the next 5 to 10 years? I want you to look in your crystal ball.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be a hot topic because there is so much, neurological degeneration going on, so it has to be a topic if we wanna still, survive and thrive as a society. You can live to be 80 or 90 with dementia, but that's not aging well, so how do we prevent that dementia? How do we prevent Parkinson's? I mean, I live in Iowa, it's like
Mm.
glyphosate, central here. We're so toxic here. There's so much Parkinson's and dementia, thyroid cancer, all those kind of things. So we have to have those conversations. Otherwise, we're going to end up with, on every corner, we're going to have a new nursing home or,
Wow.
so I think we have to have that conversation. We have to know how to detox the body, detox the brain properly so that we can reverse these things that are happening in our society.
So, you really talk about prevention for brain health like decades before
Mhm.
Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, ALS. Interesting. Alzheimer's, more common with women,
Yeah.
Parkinson's, more common with
I mean,
men.
men. Mhm.
Autoimmune, much more common with women. You can make a case and we can have a discussion that this is all based on our exposure, like you said, to chemicals.
Absolutely. I mean, look what we put on our bodies as women that you don't put on your bodies as men.
Well, you'd be
Yep.
surprised what I do. I'm a little metro when it comes to that, but I know what you mean.
But my husband, like, uses nothing. I have to tell him, "Honey, please put some lotion on your head. It's dry."
Right.
right? Because you just don't most men don't do a lot of extra body care. Well, we've got makeup, we've got lotion, we've got the conditioner, we've got everything as women. We got spray tans. Women are doing Botox, where most of the time men don't do Botox. We've got all of these things that we're putting in our body that are toxic. So we have to have that conversation. Well, how can we get clean makeup? How do we do clean lotion? Why is Botox toxic? All those kind of things. So, yeah, the conversation definitely needs to be had because definitely women suffer from more autoimmune and neurodegeneration than men do.
Yeah, to speak about chemicals, glyphosate. You and I both hate glyphosate. It
Mhm,
just came across my desk last week, believe it or not. Obviously, I always eat gluten-free oatmeal, but there's a
mhm.
glyphosate-free gluten-free oatmeal now. It comes from 1 Degree.
I
Thank
didn't
you.
know that.
Yeah, it was a patient. You learn so much from your patients.
Yeah.
That's why they call it practice.
Yes.
So, why don't you share one thing to ensure cognitive health over the next 10 years?
Eat enough protein and make sure it's clean. Make sure it's from animals that haven't been vaccinated, that haven't been eating glyphosate sprayed hay and grass. I think that is key because if we don't have enough protein, we don't have enough amino acids in our body.
So I got to quote what they call a closing reflection on the brain right now. Number one is brain health is not about perfection. It's about adaptability, resilience, and informed self leadership.
Mm.
I know you'll like that self leadership thing.
Self leadership. You are responsible for your own health. 1,000%.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
where do you see yourself in your practice go in the next 5 or 10 years? I always like to ask the
Hmm.
guests, like, where do we see ourselves?
Where do we see ourselves? I see myself being the leading authority in brain health and amino acids for sure. And I've been training practitioners, probably for the last 10 years in amino acid therapy. I have my own course and certification that I train. So I see that growing so that this gets more mainstream. So when you ask your staff, what do you know about amino acids? They'll be like, oh, yeah, I heard that because not just Lori's talking about it. We have 100 other practitioners that are implementing this amino acid therapy every single time.
How did you get so precise with the amino acids? Like I said, what you're doing is unique. It shouldn't be, but it is without question cutting edge, maybe even leading edge.
Which
What
is so
was
funny
the
because it's been around for decades, right? So when I first learned about amino acid therapy, it was my own struggle with an eating disorder, anxiety, depression, and I
Mm,
went to a clinic that used amino acid therapy. Julia Ross is one of the pioneers in amino
mm,
acid therapy.
right.
And so I learned, a lot of stuff from her. And yeah, it's been around and so we just need to keep talking about it.
So I wrote this down yesterday. I told you I had a couple for you in the bag.
Yeah.
If there was one misconception about brain health you wish you could permanently retire, what would it be and what should replace it? So it's two questions.
Yeah. So, misconception, I would say that your brain can't heal, that it doesn't drive everything, or we have to start with the gut first. So, I feel like your brain is primary, everything stems out of it. And so, really feel that we need to address the neurology in our body first. And then, what was the second part of the question?
And what would you replace it with?
I would just make sure everybody's taking their amino acids every single day instead of going down the rabbit trail of and this is, not that you shouldn't talk about these things, but the MTHFR or the genetics. Let's just go back to foundations, right? So
Right.
I really want people to go back to foundations, fats, proteins, minerals. Those are all foundation. If you have those covered, then you can go down your rabbit trail. But if those aren't covered, let's not deviate from from the foundational pieces that God gave us to live well.
So amino acids, your foundation. So let's do some rapid fire. I'll hit you with some other supplements. Tell me what you think about it. Why not?
Okay.
Pre and probiotics,
Those are good.
omega-3 fatty acids, fish oils.
I'm not a fan.
Okay. Vitamin D3 with K2.
I would say mid-range.
Multivitamin, multimineral.
It depends on the quality.
Okay. How about creatine with amino acids?
I am not opposed to creatine, but I am not like the craze on the creatine. I never use it in my practice. But if somebody wants to use it and they feel a difference with it, I think it's great. But I don't use that as a mainstream brain health supplement.
NADH.
I think that's good.
So amino acids before,
Amino
during a
acids
meal,
before, I don't really ever need to recommend it, but I know some people use it and get good results with it.
amino acids before a meal, during a meal, after a meal.
If we're using it therapeutically, I would say before a meal on an empty stomach.
Okay.
If you're just using it as like a supplement, just to kind of maintain things, go ahead and take it with a meal.
So amino acids are good for mental health, gut health, muscle, muscle recovery,
Hormones.
hormones. Okay, great. Across
Yeah.
the board. I always like to end. My friend listens from Geneva and he's like, Rob, I'm really happy with your podcast. You've got some great guests as you've been illuminating. Give him one thing to do differently on Monday because he's my age, he's 60, he's on his health trail now.
Awesome. So double your protein.
There you go. Well, it's been a pleasure. I mean, we did this rapid fire, but I knew that was going to happen. You've got that New York style, even though you live in Iowa. I'll tell you that.
Thank you.
Love to see you do it again. I'm going to add amino acids into my practice armamentarium.
I love it. Thanks, Dr. Rob. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Laurie. It's been my pleasure. See you soon. Proven Health Alternatives.
Thanks for listening to Take Back My Brain. If today's episode helped you connect with hope or direction, I want you to follow the show, leave us a review, and share it with someone who needs it. And if you're ready to start your own healing journey, explore our courses and our coaching programs at lauriehammer.com/store. So until next time, remember, you cannot medicate away a nutrient deficiency, and healing your brain isn't just possible, it's powerful.